God bless you, everybody, and welcome again to the Crystal Jones Show. Thank you for tuning in on this lovely afternoon. I appreciate all of you who watch the show. As always, you know we have something special for you. I hope you enjoyed Lift Every Voice and Sing. As you all know, that is the National Black Anthem. And this year represents 400 years since the transatlantic slave trade. So you know we have something special for you. We're going to be talking about the past, the present, and the future. But right now we're going to get into our announcements. Our first announcement is going to be the Girlfriends Breakfast. If you can put that up on the screen. That's going to be our first announcement. The Girlfriends Breakfast Empowerment Movement, that is going to be coming to Yonkers Saturday, September the 21st, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Courtyard by Marriott, which is by 5 Executive Boulevard in Yonkers, New York. If you are interested in going to this function, you could go to the Autism Project, fios.org, girlfriendsbreakfast.html. It's on the, you can go to my page and see it as well. The Crystal Jones TV show, you can go right to my page to, go on to the link. And if you're interested in attending that particular Girlfriends Breakfast. And that is none other than Regina Lashley. She's the founder and the host. She was on the show a couple of months ago, as well as Daqueen Monroe, who is the ambassador of the Girlfriends Breakfast. They have different empowerment breakfasts for women of color, anybody really, but it's specifically to unite women of color that we're at a time now where we need to get back to our own culture and our way of doing things. Every other culture has their own things and their own way of doing things, and the Black culture has kind of slacked off. So we need to get back to that. We need to get back to our sisterhood, being there for one another, supporting each other, that type of thing, which I do see a lot of. So I am thankful for that. Also, we have, this one just came in, so it's not going to be up on the board, but it's the Church of the Ascension annual dinner dance. That's going to be Friday, December the 6th, 2019, from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. at the Green Tree Country Club. That's in New Rochelle. And if you are interested in going to that particular function, you can call their church office at 914-668-4851. 914-668-4851. Again, you can go to the Crystal Jones website, and I will have the information there. I went there one year for their dinner dance, and it was awesome. The food was excellent. It was, and the people from the Ascension Church, they're a very wonderful group of people. You will enjoy yourself, as well as enjoy some good food and, company and music and everything. It's awesome. So those are the two announcements for today. So I want to say, I know it seems weird, but I'm just glad that we made it the 400 years. In spite of the different things that we have been through, I'm just so thankful that we made it. I just want to read to you a little bit from Lift Every Voice and Sing. And it talks about, this was written by James Weldon Johnson. And it says, lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of what liberty. Let our rejoicing rise, high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. What was the dark past? The slavery we went through, the different things that we went through, the different periods of time that we went through. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, a new beginning of our day, of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. There are three different verses that I have here, but when you get time, go and Google that, Lift Every Voice and Sing. That is known as the National Black Anthem. You should know that. If you're a person of color, you really should know that anthem. And just look at the words and imagine what our people, went through down through the years, down through the ages. Let's remember, this is nothing for us to just be sitting here and saying, oh, well, forget about it. That happened a long time ago and all of that kind of stuff. But, what are we going back over that for? There's definitely a reason why we have to keep in remembrance of where we came from. We went through so many different phases after the plantation. If you put up the slave codes, I think that's, if you put that up on the screen, the different slave codes that we had. Let's see. Is it coming up? It's not. Bear with us. Okay. Okay. These slave codes made blacks and their children property or chattel for life of white masters. In some colonies, it was a crime to teach a slave to read or write. Can you believe it? They considered us less than human. Conversion to Christianity, that's another thing. Why would they convert us from the religion we already had, the belief system that we already had, which included what is in the Bible today? They wanted to convert us over to Christianity, even though if you read the Bible in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul never considered himself a Christian. He always said he was a Hebrew. Okay, those people in the New Testament and in the Old Testament, but Abraham was the first person basically called a Hebrew. Okay, he was from the land of Chaldea, from the Chaldeans. Those were black people. They were considered Hebrews. So we already were following the Torah when we got here, which is the 10 Commandments. We were following those laws and practices, and they took those things and made it work against us to try to change us to what the Catholic Church called Christianity. And there's a whole teaching under this Christianity which takes you to the Inquisition, which was horrible because that included taking the children from black people and converting them, making them convert to Christianity. Again, I say, for what? But this was to cover up what they were really doing. They also removed a lot of the books in the Bible. There are about 90 some odd books that have been removed from the Bible. And when you go and you search those books, you will see why they removed them. The teachings that are in there tells you about the different things that happened, the truth about slavery, the truth about Israel, the truth about the black Hebrews. You will find all of that in a lot of those books. You'll find out the different teachings and things. This is why they never wanted to teach black history in school. I used to wonder that. Why are they always teaching us about, I really did. When I was coming up, I was wondering why they always only tell us about Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, and those were, not that they weren't great people. Malcolm X, different ones, but they never told us anything else. They never told us how we got here, none of that. And the things that we did finally learn were through our families, if they knew, because the idea was to get us here, get us to believe in the fact that they wanted us to believe that Christ was a European man, and then we would obey the slave master. So we grew up believing that Jesus was a white man, and that, that the whites were in power, and that for some reason we seemed, no one, they just didn't seem to like us. And then finally finding out why was wow, to really realize it really wasn't just about money or anything like that with slavery, even though the transatlantic slave trade supersedes all slave trades. It was the harshest. We were put in chains and all of that kind of stuff. Yes, that did happen. We lost millions of people leaving the Ivory Coast and coming here. Millions of our people died in the waters. Some of them jumped over because they just did not want to be bothered with what was ahead. We were chained on boats on top of each other. It was horrible. It was smelly. We had no place to go to the bathroom. It was just a mess. And they don't tell you that slavery was funded by who? The Catholic Church, the Ashkenazis, Jews. They don't tell you all of that. So this is why they didn't want us to learn our history, so we would never come to the knowledge of the truth of who we really are. And what it is that whenever the slave masters would mate with a black woman, they thought that it would preserve their culture, their race. But the black gene is so dominant that anytime you are with a black person, your child is going to come out looking black. Your child is going to have some kind of, you're going to know that child is not white. They're going to have, their lips are going to be different, their hair, something is going to alert you to that. So they realized that we had the dominant gene, and that if they couldn't continue to produce their own people, they were going to be the minority, as they are now. In the world, they have become the minority. And this is the reason why they are now, the new plantation is the prison system. This is why they plant things in the cars of black men. This is why they stop them on the side of the road for no reason, show up at their house for no reason, no explanation. Oh, we heard this, we heard that, but can never give you a real truth of why they're there. They want to search your house and all of this kind of stuff. It's because mass incarceration is the new way for them to make money. They make money off of mass incarceration. And how do they keep people coming to the jails? If you think about it, the black children and youth that are in the projects all over the country, how would they be able to afford money to get an AK-47 if their mother's on welfare? How would they be able to, get the drugs to sell to other people, the gangs and things like that? How would they get, you ever thought to yourself, how are these black kids getting that if they're barely making it? Their parents are barely making it. And we're having those who are coming forth and being honest and telling us that in some of the projects, there are boxes of guns being left. When they wake up in the morning, sometimes there are just guns being left in the projects and boxes because they know that they're going to come out there and look. And of course, they're young. They don't want to stay in poverty, and they think this is the only way out. So they're going to go look in the box and get whatever's in there, the AK-47s and all of that. And who do you think is providing these things? Could it be some of the people that have not understood what law enforcement is supposed to be about? While we have those who have integrity in law enforcement, we do have some good ones, but it's sad to say we have too many that are corrupted. So they set these things out. They get the drugs for them and bring it into their communities so that they can sell these things. And that, of course, is going to keep the prison system what? Populated, yes. And those who they can't get into the drug system or the drugs or anything like that, they're going to plant the drugs or the guns or whatever on them. They're going to say, even though if you notice now that they have the cameras on them, they don't care. They're being spotted putting drugs in people's cars and things like that. They don't seem to care because we're living in a society where white privilege still exists. It trumps the law here because why? The law of this country was based on a lie. They've told us all these things about the forefathers of this country and stuff like that. And all of that stuff is just not true. They came here to a land that was already populated by another group of people, took over the land, gave those people smallpox, and they do that everywhere they go. It's that mentality, the European colonization mentality, and it doesn't work. But it seems as though they keep continuing to try this wherever they go. And it's not working here. America is in shambles. It really is. The latest thing, you're sitting back waiting to see what's going to happen now that they're trying to ship all of the immigrants back to Mexico. I mean, for real? That makes sense? To take all of these Hispanic people out of working jobs in Mississippi. Think about this now. They took like 1,000 people the other week, arrested like 1,000 people from these different, factories that they were working in. And a lot of these people, cultivated the land and stuff like that, the crops. Now, who's going to cultivate the crops now that you've taken these people off their jobs and you want to put them in these concentration camps because that's what they are? And now the American dollar, the taxes are going to have to pay for that. For what? It just doesn't make sense. It's still that same superiority complex that seems to try to trump everything else while still pretending that you're for us. You're in our neighborhoods. Oh, vote for me. It's 2020 is coming. Oh, vote for me. But we have all these kids now that have no parents. A lot of them are home with nobody. That makes sense to you? And they're even trying to get rid of the Hispanic children, saying that even though they were born here, because they need, those who can't really afford the rising costs and prices of rent and things like that, and they need assistance, they're saying anybody that needs public assistance now has to leave this country. What? It's just really crazy. And the American dollar is gone. It's basically gone. It is gone. This country may fold up any day now. Who knows? So we better get the knowledge in us about who we are, where we came from, and where we're headed. Because America is probably not the last stop for us. A lot of us probably going to have to eventually, pick up and get out of here, because this place, the way it's going down. It's not going up. You know, they don't even want to acknowledge the good that we have done here. I mean, we built this country for what? For free. We built this country. And they never want to acknowledge us as far as reparations, yet they send billions of dollars to those in Israel who say that they are Jewish. They send billions of dollars to them yearly. All the other different groups and nationalities they've given money to, but when it comes to the blacks that have built this country for free, and they promised years ago, 40 acres and a mule. Then they said, we don't have no more land for y'all. Oh, okay. You know, but they don't tell you the good that we have done. They want you to believe that all our people are incarcerated. We're no good. We came from monkeys and apes and all these crazy things. All because they're afraid and knowing that they are now the minority. They don't tell you that we created the air conditioning unit by Frederick Jones. They don't tell you that we created the almanac, the baby buggy, blood plasma bag, the internet, the computer, the doorknob, what else? The elevator, the eye protector, the golf tee, ice cream scoop, keychains, lanterns, mailbox, lunch pail. I'll be honest with you, if we get up and get out of here today and pack up everything that our people created while we were here, I don't know what America would have, because what happened was we didn't know about patenting when we created different things. You know, we didn't know about patenting the things that we created. So you have the Europeans, again, that came and patented all of our ideas and things that we've created. I mean, I got a whole list here of stuff I could read to you. It's just so many things, and things that are not even on this list, okay? And they came and patented everything. And as much as everybody likes the hip-hop culture, guess who's in charge of the hip-hop culture? You got it. The Ashkenazi Jewish people are head over the hip-hop culture. How could that be? They didn't create it, but they know how. They're the ones that know how to run the money in the country. They were the ones that financed the slave trade and all of that. Them, the Catholic Church, Freemasons, you know, all of that. And people don't tell you, they're not going to tell us our culture. They're not going to tell us about it. But yet and still here this year, they have the H.R. 1242, 115th Congress. And this says, I read it to you before, it says that the 400 Years of African American History Commission Act. This bill establishes the 400 Years of African American History Commission to develop and carry out activities throughout the United States to commemorate the 400th anniversary of the arrival of Africans in the English colonies at Point Comfort, Virginia in 1619. Now, that was where the first documented, basically, slaves were documented at Point Comfort in Virginia, which is strange because we sure didn't come there comfortably. They sure didn't treat us right. So that's weird that they called it Point Comfort. But anyway, we arrived there at that time in 1619 in shackles and all of that kind of stuff. We arrived here at that time. Now, this commission, it said, must plan programs to acknowledge the impact that slavery and laws that enforce racial discrimination had on the United States. Let me see, not hard to think about. Negative. Because it helped to separate the families. Because, again, within that doctrine of colonization is divide and conquer. So when we came off the slave plantation from the cotton picking and things like that, even during that time, they separated us then. They separated the families as far as because, you had the slave masters forcing themselves upon the black women. So then now you see that we all have different complexions, and that's due to that happening. So they separated us there, where the black man would have to sit and watch his wife being dragged out of the cabin to be raped at night and to have kids for the slave master. And that created problems on the plantation, because then you have the lighter complected children that are going to probably be allowed to do a little more, even though I don't see how that even was so wonderful. I couldn't even imagine living on a plantation. So nothing they could do could really, to me, be wonderful. But I guess for those people, that was as best as it got, because that's all they, that all they knew was a hard life. So you had that where you divided the family there. And then also, let's go to, I don't know if you can pick up picnic, what that means. That was another way of dividing us. Picnic. African American history professional circles acknowledge that the origin of the term picnic derives from the act of lynching, burning, and maiming African Americans during slavery and following Reconstruction. Members of who, Triple K and other racist whites would often dress up and attend festive family outings with food and drink. To entertain themselves, they often kidnap an unfortunate black person, mostly males, beat, burn, and or lynch them. These terrible events would take place in front of cheering crowds, even with children present. The word picnic is rooted from the whole term, pick a nigger. This information has been verified with the Smithsonian and African American Archives. So they had to go through that on Sundays. The whites would announce it in their churches that after service, they were going to have a picnic, which meant, can you imagine what that has to be for, even for the whites to ingrain that in their mind that that was right? And that wasn't too long ago, because remember, only about 50 years ago, we just got civil rights. About 50 years ago, we got civil rights where we can vote and stuff like that. So this type of thing was going on for a long time. And why did they maim the men? Because they knew that they were breeders. They could produce more black children. That was a problem. And then they categorize all of us as just African people. They're not going to tell you where we came from, none of that. So I'm going to share with you about a people that came about, because before, we got here in slavery and stuff like that, that basically you have the human family that came about through what most of us know as the flood. Okay? The flood that we know of with Noah and the ark, that many of us teach in Sunday school or, your church services. And I'll go to the 9th chapter of Genesis, where it starts out and talks about, how God had made different covenants with different people. And the covenant he made with Noah, it talks about God blessed Noah and his sons, and unto them he said to them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So remember, after the flood, that's basically how the earth again was repopulated. And it talks about being fruitful and multiplying, replenishing the earth, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Okay, so, he talks about that. So now we're going to talk about the descendants of Noah, Noah's descendants. And that goes through chapter 10 of Genesis, and it says, now these are the generation of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. Now let's talk about the sons of Japheth. Those are the Gentile nations, which are basically, the Europeans. And it says the sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. Okay, and the sons of Gomer, this is where the Ashkenazis come from. Ashkenaz, Riphath, Togarmah, these are the ones that come from Gomer. So remember now, we're in Africa here with Noah, okay, because that's where, the civilization basically began, in the heart of Africa. So we're here, and in the beginning, you have your black people, because the sun's rays are upon us, so we have the melanin and all of that kind of stuff. But as the different tribes moved out to the different places, the colder regions, that's when people complexion and things like that started to change, and you start to see the Europeans, the whites, but initially we're basically the same complexion. We were brown, go from basically a brown to a darker complexion. Okay, so now you have the sons of Ham. Okay, the Hamites are basically the Africans, the Ethiopians, Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Okay, the Egyptians and the Libyans, these are the ones of Ham. Cush, Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. Those are the different people. Those are who they are: the Africans and the Ethiopians, the North Africans, the Egyptians, the Libyans. Now that's Ham. Now you have the sons of Shem. Okay, so unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber. Eber is the father of all the Hebrews. Eber, basically like Igbo, the Igbo tribe in Nigeria. Okay, he is the father of all the Hebrews, the brother of Japheth the elder. Even to him were children born. This is talking about Shem. Okay, so Eber is the grandson of Shem. All right, now in the 11th chapter, you talk about the beginning of the nations, and still you're talking about the descendants of Shem. Okay, now we go to the call of Abraham, because remember, Abraham is a Chaldean from the land of Ur. Those are black people. Okay, so that is today how the current Jewish people, if you read their almanac, they tell you in their almanac they can never be related to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are European people who came to this land, but they don't fit the curses of the Bible. They had the Holocaust, yes, but they were not scattered on ships. They were not brought in ships to other nations as we were. We were scattered to all four corners of the earth. I don't think there's a culture that black people are not really a part of or in. So they were never scattered like that, and they weren't born on ships. So even their own people are telling them, listen, y'all, you got to stop this. Stop, the original Hebrews were black, okay, because Israel is in where? Northeast Africa. Okay, and as I told you before, about 70% of their people are dying each year from cancer, probably because they really did not originate there. That's not the area where 2,000 years ago when Christ, was here. First of all, he was not called Jesus. He was called Yeshua, because there is no J in the Paleo Hebrew alphabet. There is no J. They call him Jesus here, basically in America, but he was called Yeshua, meaning salvation. Salvation is of the Lord. So his name was Yeshua. He was a black man. There are different scriptures in the Bible that tell you who the Hebrews were. Now, in the 11th chapter, you see where of Genesis still, in the 31st verse, and Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Now Terah was Abraham's, he was later called Abraham. Terah was Abraham's father. They were from Ur. They were Chaldeans. Now, in the 12th chapter, the call of Abraham, Abraham was now called out from the Ur of the Chaldeans. Now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So now Abraham hears this covenant with the Lord. So it says he departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. Okay, so now this is the beginning of basically Israel. Okay, when Abraham takes God up on his covenant and departs from Ur of the Chaldeans. So now we're going to the 15th chapter. There's a lot that, there's more that happened in between there, but for time's sake, I'm just going to, basically take you to the covenant that the Lord had, and he ratified it with Abraham. In the 15th chapter, it talks about, after these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And so Abram said, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram, basically told the Lord that at that time him and Sarah didn't have a child together. But the Lord told him in the 4th verse, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine own heir. Now in the 13th verse, he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed, which is Isaac, shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them. How long? 400 years. Now people say, that was the time that they were in Egypt. No. When you go over the time history of that, it does not add up to 400 years. It doesn't. So they were in bondage. Yes, the children of Israel were in bondage many times, but that wasn't the 400 years. He said, there'll be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. So now let's go to the people. Let's go to the people in the 28th chapter. Now, the Lord is reminding the children of Israel again of the blessings and the curses. A blessing if you obey, but a curse if you don't obey. So he says in the 20th chapter, it shall come to pass if you will hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord your God, to observe and to do all his commandments which he commands you this day, the Lord will set you on high above all nations of the earth, and the blessing shall overtake you. And if you will hearken unto the voice of the Lord, you'll be blessed where? In the city, in the field, the fruit of your body, meaning, your children, the fruit of your ground, your cattle, your stocks, everything that you do. You'll be blessed shall be your basket and store. You'll be blessed when you go out, when you come in. He'll cause your enemies that rise up against you to be smitten before your face. They'll come out against you one way, flee before you seven, right? But the consequences of disobedience. Okay. Now he also talks about with the blessings that you'll lend unto many nations and not borrow. But if you don't obey, it shall come to pass if you will not hearken unto the voice of the Lord to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes. You'll be cursed in the city. Cursed you'll be in the field. Everywhere we go, stuff always jumps off. All the time when we go to the stores, they looking over our shoulder. We show up somewhere, they calling the cops on us because we drink water, because we, little kids selling water, they calling the cops on them. Every little crazy thing. Cursed shall be your basket in your store. Our people on welfare and all kind of, things like that. Not that there aren't any of us that are prospering, but I mean, think about it. Our people are the ones that are most find ourselves within these curses. Cursed shall be your basket and your store, the fruit of your body and the fruit of your land. The fruit of our body, we have so many kids. Our children have so many different diseases and dysfunctions and things like that. Why? Because they have, a lot of our people living in NYCHA projects and stuff like that, where there's lead and the ceiling is falling out. And our children are breathing in lead and drinking water that's no good for them. So our children have ADD and all of these kind of things, sickness and all of that is prominent in our culture, in our community. Cursed shall be the fruit of your body. Of course, what I just said, the fruit of your land, the increase of your kind, and the flocks of your sheep. Our people can't seem to save money and build things. We don't have the communities and things that we should have as the other cultures do. We're always buying from this one and that one. We're making everybody else rich. We built the White House. We built this nation for free, but yet we hardly ever have our own communities and things like that. Very few. Okay, cursed shall you be when you go in and when you come out. The Lord will send upon you cursing, vexation, rebuke, all you set your hand to do, because of the wickedness of our doings, because we would not obey the covenant. And the covenant basically is the 10 Commandments. That's the Torah. That's what we did when we were in the land of Israel. When Israel was our land, we obeyed Torah. What is that? Basically, loving the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, not putting anything before the love of the Lord your God, loving yourself. Because you love the Lord your God, you'll love yourself and you'll love your neighbor as yourself. If you do those things, you're going to fulfill all the other commandments. You're not going to be jealous against anybody. You're not going to commit any of these things against the Torah. Let's see, I have the listing here of it. You won't take the name of the Lord your God in vain. You'll remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. You'll honor your father and your mother. If you love God above all else and you love yourself and your neighbor as yourself, you're going to honor your mother and your father. You won't be killing people. You won't break wedlock. You're not going to be stealing. You won't bear false witness against your neighbor. You won't have a need to covet your neighbor's house or the things that your neighbor has, because you'll be blessed. You'll be lending to nations and things like that. But it was because of the curse. Now, the Lord said in this covenant here, because you serve not the Lord your God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Therefore, you're going to serve your enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck. The Lord will bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. What's the emblem for America? The eagle. All right? A nation whose tongue you wouldn't understand. Why? Because we spoke Hebrew. So when we got here, they were, lying again and saying that we were just too stupid to understand how to read and write. But yet when we got here, we still wrote and read in Hebrew, the native, because most of the people that came here in the transatlantic slave trade, some were Africans, but a lot of us were the Israelites. A lot of our people that came here were the original Hebrews. Because remember, we got to Nigeria through the 70 AD revolt with the Romans against, the Jews at that time. And we scattered to different areas of Africa to hide. So that's when they started calling us Ibu instead of Hebrew. When we got over to these different areas, they would call different areas land of Judah, and that the slave coast, the Ivory Coast, and all of that. Look at those old maps, y'all, in Nigeria and different places. You'll see they mark those ages. They mark those places off to identify who we were. We were Hebrews. So, a nation of fierce countenance. Fierce, why? Because they wanted the money. They wanted to trade us. They were making millions. They were making crazy money off of trading us. All right? Which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. They would feed our kids to crocodiles and alligators and stuff like that when we got here. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle. Or everything that we did for them, they got to benefit from us. Remember, that's how we started eating chitlins and pig slop and all of that kind of stuff, because we had to eat the leftovers. And the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed. Now, it talks, if you go further down, 64th verse, it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods. That's us. We're in every culture. I'm just talking about the transatlantic slave trade, but there's the Spanish one, all of the different, the Dominicans, they're black people. Come on now. How you think they look like us? Because why? Okay. So, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. You know how they worship kind of the cross, the wooden cross? People worship that. A lot of people bow down to it. They worship it. They don't use it as just a sign that Christ died on the cross. Some of them actually worship that. Wood and stone. In the Muslim religion, they worship, that stone that they worship. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart. Our people die of heart attacks and stuff like that. And failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. Now, in the 68th verse, it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. So we were once in Egypt, But he said he was going to bring us again. And this America is Babylon. It is the spiritual Egypt for us. Again, with ships. With ships. It says it in the Bible. With ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Okay? So we are those people. But we have reached the 400-year mark. So the curse is lifted. As of August 20th, that was the first actual date that they actually marked us coming in here. So last week on the 20th, basically that curse has been lifted, but now we have to lift those curses in our minds. We have to get off these other plantations that they put us on. The reading, if you were able to read and you were black, there was a problem. Redlining, all kind of crazy things that they put on us. But the last one now looks like is the mass incarceration, where they are filling the jails to the maximum capacity because they're making money off of our people in jail. But God said that if we turn to him again, which our people will, in the 30th chapter, he said, it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. If you will return unto the Lord your God and obey his voice, the Lord will turn thy captivity and have compassion on thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God has scattered thee. Okay? He will gather us from thence. He will fetch us. And the Lord will bring us into the land which our fathers possessed. And we will possess it, and he will do us good and multiply us above our fathers. So our blessing is going to be even more than what they had. So he will circumcise our heart. We're going through the wilderness experience now because he's going to weed us out. We are beginning to awaken. The Hebrew awakening is now happening. We're now coming out of the things that even Christianity taught us here in America. No, we are Hebrew people. We've been keeping Torah before we got over here. But they wanted to bring the Bible to us in a way that we would bow down and obey them. But that's not what God intended. So the Lord said he is going to avenge us of what they have done to us. So the tables are getting ready to flip and to turn, and you're seeing the different things that are happening to that nation that has been against us. The opioid addictions. Now they're concerned, not because it's our people, but now because it's affecting their people. The different curses that were on us, if you notice, a lot of things they're beginning to be exposed for the things that they do. The latest with the human trafficking, that's being exposed. The situation that recently happened, the Epstein situation where he was allowed to, because again of white privilege, but finally they caught up with him. But imagine how many people are going to be exposed because of that, with that human trafficking, because if you even read the Reader's Digest, it tells you how so many people in government go overseas and use our tax dollars to traffic children. And all of that, so many things are going to come out. It's going to come out. And at some point, the second Exodus will happen. I don't know when. I'm not saying it's this year or whatever, because we probably have to go through so many things as the tables turn, because now that we're coming to the knowledge of who we are, where we've been, where we are now, where we're going, the Lord is going to bring us together, and we may go through a period where he will hide us from the enemy, because at some point, come on, y'all, we got to go back to our land. Our land is the richest land in the world. We have gold, we have silver, we have diamonds, everything. So they're fighting us because we have the richest continent in the world. We're blessed by the Lord with the melanin and everything. They want everything we have, everything we do here in the culture. They copy us. They want to look like us. They try to get their hair like us. They want to look like the black women. They everything that we do. The black men, your hip hop culture. Or come on, y'all. Wake up and realize the kings and the queens that God made us to be. But at some point, we got to go back to our land. But in the meantime, we have to get ready. We're in the place now. The 400 years, the curse is gone, y'all. It's lifted. So now what are you going to do? Are you still going to stay in darkness and feel like, oh, well, the government will help us? No, y'all. If they haven't helped us in 400 years, they ain't going to help us. Okay? It ain't going to happen. So we've got to now come together, form our communities again, even though I know Black Wall Street was a horrible thing to happen, but it happened because, at that time, of course, there were few of us forming the communities, but we got to get back to our own culture and our people supporting our own businesses and building so that we can finally go somewhere. The second Exodus is going to happen. It may happen in our lifetime, but the gathering of our people is taking place. We've been scattered to every corner of the earth. So, like I said, even though the Black Wall Street, that happened, that doesn't stop us. It doesn't stop us. We have the Lord on our side. He said he will be with us as long as we be with him. So we got to come back to a Torah-keeping people. We have to come back to serving the true and the living God. So thank you all for tuning in for this 400th year prophecy celebration. And continue to tune into the Crystal Jones Show. I'm your talk show host, Pastor Crystal Jones. Thank you for tuning in. Share this with someone. Let people know what's going on now that the curse has been lifted and we're moving on to higher ground. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. And as always, I tell you stay balanced. God bless.
Your pew can sit that beast that we're fighting in the world. I'm that JC Supergirl, Jesus Christ, belt of truth, arm of God, I'm slaying you. Power of the word, two-edged sword, MC Heaven rocks for her Lord. Thought they crept in unaware, didn't see the gatekeeper standing right there. Not getting down with your tactics, undoctrinal practice. Rewind, selector, bring it back. Heaven is on this track, no more games in my mind. God built me in the spirit, division, corruption, strife, envy, no